Hey there, falling hair is what I'm talking about today. And the reason I'm talking about this one is I actually recently had an episode of this and it was actually quite bad and it stressed me out big time. So I understand, ladies, if your hair is falling, oh my god, it's scary. So basically what was happening, I'm not talking about alopecia here, I'm not talking about that sort of like falling out in clumps, that's a different thing. What I'm talking about today is when you have a lot of hair falling out from all over your head, and basically when you put your hands through it, you'll be like, there's just all these hairs, right? When you wake up in the morning, you're all on the pillow, yeah, all the hair, you're sitting around, sitting at your desk, you look down, there's all this hair on the floor, and when you wash your hair, of course, heaps of hair. So normally it's normal to get a little bit of hair in your, pull out some hair, especially when your hair is longer, right? So the longer your hair gets, the more you're going to notice the hair. But there's a normal amount and then there's an excessive amount. Just so you know, this whole thing between men's balding and women's balding, this is also there's a very common link, well, there's the same thing going on for both of them in some cases. So that's a hormonal issue. Today, my one was primarily a deficiency and an inflammation combination going on, and that was actually affecting my hormones, right? So this is what I'm going to explain to you today. This is very, very common. So the first thing to know about falling hair is there are phases of growth with your hair. So you've got three phases. The one where it's growing, yeah, the one where it's not growing, but it's not falling out, yeah, and then basically the falling out, or what they call the rest phase, which is where the follicle just like falls out and then a new one starts, right? So this is normal, this is what's happening all the time. This is why when you are just living your daily life, you're always losing hair. Every time you go like this, you might feel, well, at that time I got none, but you're gonna get some hair. Anything from 20 to 100 strands of hair per day is considered normal. Now, for me, 100 is totally excessive, but 20 is probably more like it, yeah, for me. And different hair, people, like different ethnicities, different types of hair will lose more, have less hair, depending on like the thickness of the strands and all that sort of stuff, right? So some people are just known for their like luscious hair, right? And other people it's a lot thinner, a lot finer. So you just got to take that into consideration when I say somewhere between 20 to 100. Just consider what's normal for you. But you will know what is normal for you and you'll know what's not normal for you. And when you go, it's falling out everywhere and it's changed, this is the indicator, you know. So what is going on? We need to have a chat. So let's start with the basic stuff, which is like nutrition, yeah? So one of the most common causes of hair falling is iodine deficiency. Now, iodine is a mineral that is essential for health and wellness. It's really important for your thyroid. And falling hair, the number one thing that will cause hair to fall just randomly out of the blue, you're healthy as, everything's good, why is my hair falling? It's because your iodine is too low. So we need iodine to be having iodine on a daily basis. But many of us are not doing this, and there's a couple of reasons why this is. One is we don't really eat much food from the sea anymore because one, it's expensive, it's hard to get, all of that sort of stuff. Two, there's a bit of a concern about how toxic the sea is, so people have stopped eating fish for that reason. And three is it's just kind of like culturally, our culture has changed, right? So we don't tend to just eat seafood. We used to, I don't know for you guys, but back in the day, it was you'd always have seafood on a Sunday, or different cultures would live by the sea and harvest a lot of seaweed and have that sort of stuff. So we don't have that in our culture, like Western culture, much anymore. And this Western culture is taking over traditional cultures all over the world. So we're getting this problem with low iodine. Now, the other thing is iodine comes in salt. It comes from things in the sea, and salt comes from the sea. So if you're not having salt, if you've got a salt restricted diet, then you'll be low, or potentially this will be contributing to your low iodine as well. Now, this is one of the reasons why the government in Australia and in New Zealand and places like that puts iodine into the salt, right? It's commonly added back in, but the problem is people have stopped using table salt, because table salt, people like myself, naturopaths, have been don't eat that stuff because it's full of toxins like aluminium and dodgy stuff that makes you unwell. But the side effect of that is that people are no longer getting the iodine. It's the same with don't eat the white bread, don't eat all the processed things, because what they do is they strip out all the nutrients of those processed foods, but then they add some of the nutrients back in. So this is a bit of an issue, actually. It's kind of like a reverse issue. Like we've told people to stop eating junk, which is good, you need to, but they haven't started adding more iodine containing foods into their diet. So this is what happens is if you stop eating the salt, if you stop eating the white bread, I know this is mad, like you can think, what the hell she's telling people to eat white bread. I'm not telling you to eat white bread, right? I'm not telling you to do that. But this is what happens is people take those things out and then they don't add the iodine sources back in, right? So naturally, how you get iodine in your diet is to eat fish and to eat things that come from the sea, shellfish, seaweeds and things like that. Or you have an iodized table salt, but it's not like standard table salt. You need to go to the health food shop and find a good quality one that's got iodine added. So this is one way that you can make sure that you're getting iodine. But if your hair is falling out, you're gonna need way bigger doses than what's in your salt, right? And you're gonna have to eat a ton of seaweed to get there. So I highly recommend using a supplement. I wouldn't try and eat that much seaweed. You probably end up wanting to vomit because, you know, seaweed's kind of intense. But long term, take this as good advice to continue to eat and make sure you're sourcing seafood-based products to keep your iodine levels up. So you can get iodine in many different forms. So there's Lugols, which is very, very strong and discouraged by standard medicine. Okay, there is that's the brown one that you might drop it on your skin or take it internally. There's potassium iodide. This is the one that's most commonly recommended for like retail and like natural health practitioners. It's considered safer, and the dosing around this is very controversial because this is a video that's going out everywhere. I'm not going to go into doses because it really depends on who you are, the size of you, your health problems, how deficient you are, that sort of thing. So getting the right amount of iodine is really a skill, let's just say that. And this is with the help of a practitioner who's qualified, who understands this stuff, can really help you. There's a bunch of different types of iodine out there. I tend to use the potassium iodide mostly in clinic. I do sometimes use those other ones, but again, they're a little bit more controversial. The reason why this is controversial is because when you take too much iodine, you can move yourself into an excess of iodine, or you can upset your thyroid. Now, thyroid health is dependent on iodine. So if you've got hair falling out, you know your iodine's probably a bit low. Yeah, generally. This is a general statement. It's not necessarily true for everybody because it could be one of these other things that I'm going to talk about soon. But if your hair is falling out because of iodine deficiency, your thyroid will also be struggling, and your thyroid may have been struggling for a very, very long time before you get the acute symptoms of iodine deficiency, right? So it could have been years and years. So if you've got thyroid symptoms like can't lose weight, you're cold, you've got dry skin, like lots of different symptoms, falling hair, losing the hair off the ends of your eyebrows, all that sort of stuff is indicators for potentially iodine deficiency and thyroid problems as well. So this is how this whole holistic health thing works. It's like it never is just one thing, right? There's a multiple of factors that cause a problem. So let's move on from iodine and let's go into the other things that could be causing hair loss. Let's talk about hormones. Right, so basically you've seen men with their losing their hair, right? The balding. Women also can have this problem, particularly as we age, particularly after menopause, because what can happen is our estrogen levels start to decline. It's normal, it's part of menopause. And what can happen in that process is there can be an excess of androgens or testosterone that can happen. And if the liver is not working well, if it's sort of not functioning properly, you've got 5 pathways that things get broken down through the liver. I could just give you a little picture of this. I don't know if you can see that, but there's 5 different pathways in which the liver has to break things down, right? And so if you don't have the right nutrients to help those pathways work, then what can happen is the liver won't be able to detoxify, break down the hormones that your body is producing. So for example, with testosterone, this is the big one that causes hair loss in men, but also in women. And what's happening is there is an enzyme called 5-alpha reductase, and what it does, instead of breaking down testosterone completely into a form that can leave the body, it breaks it down into what we call the intermediate phase, into a form called dihydrotestosterone. Now, men who have balding hair, who have prostate, raised PSA levels, that sort of thing, like inflamed prostate, often will have raised levels of this dihydrotestosterone. And men who tend to have more testosterone, so they tend to be a bit hairier in general, are the ones that have more of a tendency to have this problem, because they actually make more testosterone, but if the liver isn't able to break it down, then they have more of this dihydrotestosterone, right? So it's a man problem, this is a woman problem, this is a hormone problem, this is a liver problem. So to fix this, or to sort it out naturally, we need to improve your liver function. We use herbs and vitamins and nutrients and all sorts of things to do that, yeah, in a holistic protocol. So herbs like milk thistle and dandelion and things like that may help to do this. This may or may not be perfect for you. So this is why I don't like to give like generic information for people and say this is going to fix you, because I can't say that it's going to happen. But these are the sorts of herbs that we may use. Selenium, what else? What's it called? Saw palmetto, like there's different herbs, things like that. B vitamins, these things can help improve the liver function, to get the testosterone broken down into the right form and out of the body. So that's the hormonal component. There is another hormonal component, which is to do with stress. So you know how, hair is kind of like, it's an unessential thing. It's like if you lose your hair, you're not gonna die, right? So your body, when you get stressed, will sort of shut down processes or use nutrients for survival, right? So you might have seen someone who's been through a really stressful time. You saw them, you're like, that's the person. You see them 5 years or 3 months or whatever it is, a period of time later, and you're like, whoa, you've gone grey and you look really old, right? Have you seen that happen with someone? I'm sure you have. Maybe they've gone through a divorce, or they've lost a loved one, or something like that. It's a major stressful period. So the hair is a place that will kind of show these signs, and this is all related to cortisol. So when you're stressed, your body makes cortisol, yeah? Cortisol is this amazing hormone. It does so many things in the body. It releases and balances blood sugars, it regulates your energy levels, and it also regulates your immune system. So what happens is when you get really, really stressed, if you have a lot of cortisol, it will start to affect the hair. And the hair will can go into, like a lot of your hair follicles at the same time can go into the rest phase, right? So this is what happens when you get that like stress result where your hair is just falling out. It's because of that process. The cortisol is affecting how the hair grows. Now, the other thing that happens with this is related to cortisol. So you've got two types of stress. You've got that emotional stress, which I'm talking about, like big shocks, trauma, that sort of stuff that happens. And then you've got inflammation. So there's the outside stress and the inside stress. Now, inflammation is the inside stress. Now, inflammation is caused by infections, toxins, like illness, basically illness within the body. Now, you might not see the illness in the body, but a practitioner like myself will definitely be able to see the illness in the body because there's signs and symptoms that this is going on. But you might be feeling tired, you might not be sleeping well, you might be overweight, you might have immune problems like allergies, that sort of stuff going on. You might have sensitivities to different things, or like mold sensitivity. You might have autoimmune disease. Like there's plenty of immune problems that could be going on with you, but you might be thinking I'm fine, but someone like myself would be like, no, you're not fine, right? This is an inflammatory process that's going on in the body. So when you've got illness or sickness or chronic inflammation, which is what I just listed, in the body, this can cause hair loss as well. For the same reason, it's the effect of cortisol, yeah? Because when you're inflamed, what happens, this is the part where cortisol regulates your immune system. When you've got like inflammation happening or something like that happening in the body, it is regulated by the immune system, which means inflammation means an increased activity of the immune function, right? So this whole process of what happens is when there's sickness or stress, cortisol will go up initially, yeah? And that's because it's like, one, if you're stressed, you've got to run away and got to do things. It's got like, you've got to have the energy, and that's what cortisol does. It gives you the energy to fight, to run, to plan, to get through the divorce, to, you know, all that sort of stuff, right? It's the same with sickness in the body. When there's sickness in the body will give more cortisol to try and dampen down the inflammation in the body, right? So it'll give more because that's what cortisol does. But in the long run, both situations do the same thing. In the long run, so short term it goes up, in the long run it'll start to go down. And so then what happens is you end up feeling tired because you're not producing enough, and then the infections and things can actually get hold again and run rampant, which then actually causes more inflammation. And this is the chronic health process, which I'm not going to talk about today, but it's just this whole process around understanding cortisol, because cortisol is a complex, interesting, fascinating, and a very important hormone to have regulated. Stress, toxins, infections, your diet, your sleep, all of these things directly affect cortisol and can affect the stuff falling out. So if you've been very stressed, if you're deficient, if you've got chronic illness, if you've got nutritional deficiencies, like these things can all be contributing to hair loss. So I hope that's been helpful. Hope I haven't confused the heck out of you, but I might have given you some tips and some things to think about, some pointers to think about, like, oh, I really need to increase my iodine, or at least start eating more seafood. Oh, maybe I should start to detox my liver, look after my liver better. Maybe I need to go get some testing done from an integrated doctor or a naturopath or something like that to help me understand what's actually going on, because like just guessing is gonna, like, how are you gonna actually ever know? Yeah, maybe I need to reduce stress. Oh, maybe I need to reduce my inflammation. Now that comes from the diet, that sort of thing. That is kind of it. Okay, so I hope that is helpful, like I just said. If you have any questions, feel free to write questions, comments in the thing below, the comments section below. I will answer them. If you want some help, please feel free to message me directly and we can book in a time. I do offer a free 30-minute consult for people who are interested in working with me to help you get your hair growing back, because it is horrible. For me, my journey, I got onto it pretty fast. It started very quickly. And I reckon within 6 weeks I had sorted it out and turned it around completely, and now my hair's back to what it was. But it was scary. I was like, I think I lost about half of my thickness in my hair in a short period. It is still growing back now. Like I can feel it, like I'm getting all these little new growth hairs here. I can see them. But yeah, so that's that. Hopefully that's been good.